The WOCA.
Ocala.
Okay, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. A long time ago, I learned an expression. It is there, but by the grace of God go I. And I don't remember where I heard it first. But every time I see somebody who appears to be homeless, I think that same thing. That could easily have been me. I mean, just any wrong turn in my life, any calamity, a storm, getting fired from a job, especially when I was younger. Any of them could have been me. It's hard to hear about somebody passing who had $50 billion. There was a lady in the news the other day, and I'm not saying she wasn't a philanthropist. I don't know anything about her, but I just said, how can you have $50 billion and die with it? And it seems like to me, every time you go outside, there must be somebody you see who could use your help. How could you have $50 billion when you die? That's a debate for somebody else, I guess. Toni James is in the studio. We've known Toni forever. You are such an important part of our community, Toni.
Oh, thank you, Larry.
And your son, Tom James, is just outstanding. You know, when I first started working with Tom, I had no idea you were his mom.
Oh, God.
And then all of a sudden I put two and two together. I said, oh my gosh, wow. You have good...
My famous son.
Your famous son. Well, you're his famous mom.
Yes.
You used to be, let's see, Tom used to be Tony's son. Now you're Tom's mom. That's right. Right, yeah, that's how that goes, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm the same thing with me and my son. Dr. Jerome Gamble, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to be here.
My notes say that you are the chairman of the Public Policy Institute Board of Directors, and we're talking about homelessness in Ocala today, correct?
Yes.
Well, thank you for coming in. So what do you do with the homeless? What is your job?
Well, the Public Policy Institute does studies of important issues our community faces, and that's what we're doing now, is organizing, and the study has just begun, and we are working toward developing more information about homelessness and developing some recommendations about what our community can do about it.
You guys have been working with the public for so long. So what has changed? Have we improved? Are we getting worse? What's happening?
That's a very difficult question to ask, because the numbers that we have to quantify homelessness seem to fluctuate. Empirically, we think that our problem is increasing, but that's what our study is designed to do, to give some definitive definition to what is actually happening in Ocala and in Marion County.
Is homelessness due to people just being lazy and not wanting to work and support themselves, or are there other factors?
Oh, no. There are people who are what we call chronically homeless, but there is a whole nother group of people that are homeless for a variety of family and social reasons.
Yeah, that's why I said there, but by the grace of God go I. That could easily be me.
The newly homeless, the ones who've never experienced it before, and suddenly, as Jerone said, have, something has happened in their lives that they can't pay the rent or whatever, and the chronically homeless are people with substance abuse issues that keep them from being able to stay in a home. So there are some. When I worked for the United Way, we used to think about the homeless a lot, and found that there's a core of people that really don't want a home. They'll have me to live out in the forest or under a bridge or something.
But the question is that a problem? Would that be a problem if I wanted to do that? Why? And I'm not saying that's the case of everybody, but let's just say I said, you know what? I just want to live under a bridge. Am I causing some kind of a problem by doing that?
Well, inherent with that population are a whole range of community and social issues, because many people who reach that decision are people that are involved in alcohol and drugs, people with psychological and psychiatric problems that create other kind of issues in our community that have a cost associated with housing them when they are being housed and hospitalizing them when they need to be hospitalizing them. And a large part of it is incarcerating them for various kind of minor offenses.
Is there a city that you know of that does really well with their homeless, that they do it right? They're humane, they're fair. Is there a city that comes to mind that you've studied that shows maybe we don't have to reinvent the mousetrap, we can just sort of copy what somebody else is doing?
Well, our hope is that we will be able to do that. So we are looking at various models around the country. One in particular, the Miami Homeless Trust, and how they have managed homelessness in Miami-Dade County. That's just an example that is close enough to us that we can touch and feel and look and see.
Give us an idea of what we could do as a city, as a county, as individuals. What can we do?
Well, I don't want to be presumptive in terms of the work that we're doing. Because the work that we're doing is to take a look at all of the entities that are involved in our community in homelessness, and to collect data and information, and to come out of that with a recommendation about what we can do in our community. Now, the goal in communities around the country, the goal in Miami, they started out with the goal of eliminating homelessness. And boy, that's a marvelous goal.
That's a marvelous goal.
That's a tremendous challenge as well. And they've done some innovative things in order to help them do that. In order to have federal funding for homeless efforts in communities, we have to have something that is called a housing first kind of policy, where instead of dealing with some of the social and medical and psychological and psychiatric issues, when we find people that are homeless, we want to be able to put them in a home.
What was this story in the news about the Stagecoach Inn? Is that the one I'm talking about? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, by Silver Springs with the hotel behind it.
What is the plan for that?
We're not working on that.
Oh, you're not
project
part of that. Okay, I'm sorry. For some reason, I thought that was part of this.
Well, we are aware of it, and they are participating in our study with us.
Okay.
Blessed Trinity
Yes.
Catholic Church.
Yes.
So when we look at Miami, do the solutions point to a way to help not the chronically homeless that you described, but the people who really want to get back on their feet? Is it temporary shelter? Is it a room in a hotel? Is it a tent? What is the solution?
Well, the Housing First initiative and the Housing First approach requires that you identify affordable housing in your community, and that takes someone working on identifying those places. And then when you identify homeless individuals and families, to get them into one of those housing situations, regardless of how that is being paid for.
Sure.
This is a very...
So are there requisites? Or, in other words, does a homeless person who is working, and we know that this is out there, right? Somebody who has maybe day labor or something, they're working long hours, they're working hard jobs, but they just don't have enough resources to get either an apartment or a house. Is that who this will help as far as that goes? I mean, will that person say, oh my gosh, thank you so much for the room, as soon as I get on my feet, I can pay you back? Do you have those kinds of clients?
That will be one of the approaches that we will be working with.
Yeah.
We have some of those situations in our community as well. This is going to involve people who are coming out of incarceration and trying to find somewhere to live,
wow,
a job.
Yeah, that's right. Where do those people go?
Yeah, this is going to involve all of the children in our community who do not have stable places to live. The numbers in our community suggest that there are 700 plus homeless people that are adults. The count for the children in the community, according to the school system, is somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,800 to 3,000 children. And that number probably just scratches the surface.
This is the time of year we start to hear about organizations gathering food. It should be all year, but it's usually around now. As a radio station, we get the announcements all the time. We share that information, of course. And the one thing that always is mentioned is how many homeless children we have. It's also a part of the
Stuff the
Bus program
for back to school.
for those children.
I think one of the things that we're hoping that this study will do is to get the various organizations that are wanting to help the homeless to coordinate, to talk to one another, to refer to one another. And right now, it's somewhat splintered and isolated. Good people, good organizations,
Right.
but not coordinating, not talking to one another. And one of the things I think we hope is that out of this will come a plan where there's maybe a database. There has been attempts at a database, and there is a homeless management information system database, but where all the various entities access it, look at it, check it, because some churches don't interact with it. So I think that's where one of our issues is that we've got some resources, but people aren't, the social services side of it are not talking to one another yet.
There's a psychological part that I'm just the radio guy, so I have to talk like a kindergartner with this subject, but there's a psychological part of this that stems from 1977. I worked out in California, and I had to walk across this park to get to where I worked. And I worked at a pizza place. And the pizza lady, the boss, said, you can burn 2 pizzas a day, and I won't worry about it. If you burn more than 2, you're going to have to pay for them. Okay. And what she was basically saying, look, if you want to take a pizza home, go ahead and just write it off as burnt. And so and these pizzas were huge. And I used to walk through that park with the pizza specifically for the homeless that were living in that park. And I would give them the pizza, and they loved it. Okay. Then somebody stopped me, a social worker. He identified himself as a social worker. He said, you're doing more harm than good. And I said, what do you mean? He said, because you're giving them no reason to leave. What is that's the psychological part that I am crazy about. I don't even understand if I did right or wrong. What is your thought on that? What is the public policy on that? Is there a policy? We were in Tuscarora Park one time having lunch at the picnic table. A guy came up, asked us for money. We gave him the change we had in our pockets. Next thing I know, now this is when we had mounted police in Ocala. We don't have them anymore. But next thing I know, there's a policeman on a horse telling me I just broke the law.
Yeah.
And I said, oh my gosh, I didn't know. I'm giving somebody a handout. He looked like he was needing some money.
Mm-hmm. When you deal with an issue like homelessness, everybody wants to help. But not all of the things that we do actually are helping people. Sometimes you're just reinforcing bad behavior. Some of those people are making $300 or $400 a day just panhandling. And so you have to look for other ways it's kind of the old story, if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day, but if you teach him to fish...
No, I think we're getting somewhere with this conversation. So what does the study show? Because we're looking to you now. You're the ones doing the study. How should we deal with this? If I'm doing wrong, please tell me that I am and explain how I am so that I don't keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is going to be an educational effort for our community, because many of the people that sit around our study table are not aware of other folks in the community who are doing certain things. They're not coordinated because all of us are kind of operating in our own silos and out of our own.
And in this day and age, when communication is right on your phone, I mean, you can do it anytime.
Yes.
So, are you connected with the Homeless Council, Karen Hill's, the organization she's with?
Karen is a part of our study.
Oh, it's all part of the same thing. Okay.
And now you have interfaith that houses the, families with the children. You have the Salvation Army that houses, you have some churches that house, Karen Hill from the Homeless Council trying to find homes. Do you go one person or one family at a time with like a mental health counselor, and then they go and they meet with, say, like one family? They have a mom and a dad, and they've got some kids. They're living out of their car. The children are going to school, but that's all they have. So are you going out there one family at a time saying, okay, what are your skills? Can we get you to apply? Here are some jobs. Can we get you to apply for jobs? And can we help you set up with temporary housing with a loan
That's a
to
great
get the
question.
kids off the, out of the car?
The individual organizations that provide services to the homeless have various levels of services that they're able to provide. What you're describing is what we would call a case management kind of situation. I work with one shelter where we interview folks that are homeless before they're able to come into the shelter, because what we have is a transitional housing situation. And while they are in that transitional housing situation, they get counseling, they get education, they get assistance with job finding, and then they graduate out of the program into their own home situations. And there are several organizations in our community that I'm aware of that do those kind of things. But Interfaith is a good example of that as well. But what we're trying to create is a system, a coordinated approach for our community where folks know where to go to get the resources and what kind of support best provides an outcome for these individuals.
I think a good example is the previous study that was just concluded called The True Cost of Justice, that the study chair was Steve Spivey, Judge Spivey, and that study brought to light what the true cost of justice is and the fallout from people getting into the criminal background and what services are out there to help them as they come out of prison. And that's an example of what the Public Policy Institute sponsored that study. Now we're doing this on homelessness.
Gotcha.
To try and get some common threads of what can be done. And I don't think if Miami had the goal of eliminating homelessness, God bless them, but I don't know that you're ever going to eliminate homelessness.
Right.
I think it's just a matter of finding the best way to help people who want the help.
But if you can teach one man to fish,
Yes?
then you've done something pretty good. So if you can get one person off of that track that put them in the homeless position, everybody would love to have a story like that broadcaster. Remember the guy who was with the great voice, the golden voice guy?
Yes.
What's his name? Williams? I think his name was Williams, right?
I think so.
His last
yeah.
name? But anyway, everybody would love a Cinderella story like that. But it sounds like you're doing the other Cinderella stories that we don't hear so much about. So thank you for what you're doing. How can we, as the public, or as a radio station, how can we help you do what accomplish your goal?
This is a good start, because what we need to be able to do is to communicate the efforts that are underway and to have more people in our community included in the work. This is a wonderful opportunity for Ocala and Marion County, because we have the police department participating with us, the county government, the city government are all concerned about homelessness.
Some business leaders as well?
Yes.
You have
And-
the Ritz listed also to help with the veterans.
We have such a great
Volunteers
community.
are welcome.
I think everybody wants to help. And I think the problem is, I think you're figuring out a solution to the problem. That's why I think this is so important, because we all say, what can we do to help? And then we think we're doing the right thing by handing money out the window. And it sounds like that same thing I was doing in that park in California is making it worse. So is there a website, or is there an upcoming meeting, something you can direct us to?
Yes, we're having weekly study sessions every Thursday morning at 7:30 at the college, room 101, I think, in the Ewers Center, from 7:30 to 9.
Okay.
And different entities are bringing us information about what they're doing to address the homeless problems, and this will be several weeks going forward. It's open to the public to come and hear and listen, and it may take us a couple of months before we gather enough information to start asking people to start saying, okay, what are the solutions?
Right.
What plans can we come up with?
I have a metaphor. I want to ask if this is accurate. When the internet first came out, Robin's son sent me a picture of Lonnie Anderson. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
And I couldn't wait to see it because it was a hot picture, whatever. And it was coming down one line at a time. And I couldn't wait to see what this picture was going to show me, okay? I'm sorry, I'm a guy. Okay. But it sounds like it's the same thing with understanding what to do with homelessness. It's one line at a time, you're starting to get a clearer picture as to what you can tell us so we know what's best.
Yes.
Does that pretty much sum up forget the Lonnie Anderson part of it. Does that pretty much explain what you're doing? It's a process, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And at this juncture, it probably is one line at a time. But at the end of this process, our community is going to have a comprehensive plan and a definitive determination of the extent of homelessness in our community and what the collective minds of people who have worked on this think can best be done to address this problem. And that's something that we have not had before. We have too many silos and too many individuals.
I like that metaphor, by the way.
Functioning.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to the outcome of this.
And now that the winter time is coming, we have transient homeless people that come down from the north, and then they come into our community, and then they stay until the weather starts warming up, and then they leave. How can you separate those people from the people who actually live here 365 days a year and are truly homeless?
We hear that. We are going to try to see if we can determine if that is in fact the case. Because many of the people that we think we have in Marion County that are homeless are here all the time.
Yes.
Well, if you're homeless, whether you're here or somewhere else. I don't blame them. I'd come here too. I would. If I was in Detroit, it started getting to be October, I think I see, that Ocala looks pretty good right about now. All right, so next time I see somebody with a cardboard sign, what do? Keep the window rolled up? Just say, roll it down, say, hey, how you doing? Do you give them money? What do you do?
Well, I don't give people money like that.
No?
No.
That hurts more than helps, huh?
I am a very generous person, but I choose to support homelessness in our community in different ways.
Okay.
At our church, if you go there this morning, we have a box filled with food that will get delivered tomorrow.
Nice.
Because we find other ways to support what we do.
Are you the pastor at your church?
Yes.
Yes?
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
What is the name of your church?
I'm the pastor of the Mount Canaan Missionary Baptist Church.
Oh, my gosh.
my
You're like a
gosh.
superstar.
I know, you are.
Dr. Jerone Gamble, thank you so much for coming in here. What an honor, sir. You've got quite the vocabulary, by the way. I'm lost. I had to look up a few words. Toni James, thank you for coming in also.
My pleasure.
You guys are outstanding. You've always contributed to all of us, and thank you for doing that. So can we have a follow-up? Can you guys keep us up to date? And when there's a conclusion to all of this, tell us what we need to know. And
don't wait for the conclusion. Have us back before then so that we can help tell this story in our community.
All right.
We need a lot more people involved in this work, and this may be a great help to us.
Well, this interview was recorded as a video. The two of you are the only two on there. Our voices are on there. But please, anybody who wants to help out, I think this video should serve you well. Just edit out all my stupid comments, and it should work. And then you'll have some information.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent.
give an address, a phone number, a website again, please.
ppi@cf.edu.
Okay, that's it, huh?
Yes.
Thank you again, both.
All righty.
Thank you.
All right, we are up against that break. Let's take that break, and we will be right back. This is AM Ocala Live on WOCA, The Source.